Yo, what is going on YouTube? This your boy Comrade Zero Spike back again once again today. Today we're here for Ohsama Sentai King-Ohger episode 23, and we get the debut of our Ultra Zord King Kastastis Kabuto. There's a big name for a really big dude. Like big man, this thing gets defeated, we in trouble. But it looks so clean. It looks so freaking clean. It is not even just like a bunch of Zords, like, or a bunch of like shoe gods or mechs put together. It's just him. Like, he only has like one attachment, and it's like we'll get into it. But in this episode, we're basically still trying to find a way to transform the castle into its robot form, which is can't really find a way how to do it because it's weird. So they ended up finding this guy who is a researcher for the castle, but when they find him, he is like very malnourished. So Himeno does a thing where she like, I don't when could she do this? But at least it's not super late in the game, but still she ends up replenishing some of his energy by like channeling some. She basically defibrillates him, but she does it like with just her hands, and she shocks him on his head. And then you find out that this guy is the researcher for the castle. He's a researcher for how to transform the castle into its robot form. So they talk to him. They basically say that he says that it's basically impossible because this castle was created 2,000 years ago, and because it was created 2,000 years ago, the technology that they used back then is, they can't use it, and it doesn't have enough power to be able to use, because that modern technology, the technology they used back then, no longer exists, and it's impossible to technically repair it. So they ended up he also said that it doesn't have enough power, so we ended up using the shoe gods themselves. Well, Gira asked the shoe gods themselves to come in and actually take some of their regenerative energy to recharge the castle, which they tried to do that, but that also did not work because the castle it started to charge up and everything, but all the gears just all popped out of place, and then the core gear, the very small core gear that they use, it also broke in half. So after that, everything's still kind of broken and whatever. So we see that Yama gives Gira some motivations to go and talk to the people of Shogunam to tell them, hey, we need your help to find gears and all this other stuff, the gears and scraps of metal and things like that, to basically repair the castle itself by basically repairing it with newer, more modern technology, so they don't have to use the old technology anymore because they can't find it, and he said that it was impossible to repair it. So Gira kind of goes on his evil tyrant king shtick, and he ends up telling the people that, hey, you're all gonna die if you don't meet my demands. And he kind of scared them into going and getting all of these gears. So we see all these people, they're going to get the gears, they're getting any type of like scraps or metal, anything they're finding. So they get all the gears, but they're also still looking for that one very small gear that goes into the core of the system that broke in half earlier. So we see that Gira's his little freaking brother. His little brother, he ends up having some scraps in his hand, and he sees that there's a small gear on it. He has this gear, but then when he has this gear, we see that the Bugnaraka themselves try, and they end up coming and attacking. But he runs off. We see the rest of the Rangers also come in to protect the city and things like that. Gira wants to go out there and help the people and help the rest of the Rangers fight off the Bugnarok, but Yanma has basically gotten all of his crew together as well to figure out what gears and whatever pieces that they need, and he's on his computer talking with Gira, and he wants to go out there and help them. But Yama tells him that no, because like, you have to stay here in order to use the lance and the crown to, activate our big buddy here. And he explains to Gira that, hey, sometimes you gotta watch. Like, a king's job is to watch, even when you're watching people in pain. So Gira's like, yeah, it's hard. But we see that the people ended up getting the gear. We see his little brother, well, Gira's little brother, he's running. He's trying to get, while everybody's fighting off these Bugnarok. He runs past all the Bugnarok. We see that the soldiers of Shogunam also protect him and help him get on his way to Gira. He's running towards Gira, and that's when Kamen actually comes in and stops him. And we see that he knocks the gear out of his hand, and that's when the gear kind of falls over the side. And that's when our good buddy Jeremy comes in, uses his web to grab the gear and use his weapon to send the gear off to Gira and into the core of the system. And while that's happening, he starts fighting Kamen, but then Kamen alerts King-Ohger that, hey, it's time for you to wake up, it's time for you to do your thing. And King-Ohger, throughout the episode, we see scenes of him where he's growing. He's constantly getting bigger and bigger. He's red, and he's constantly getting bigger and bigger. So we see that the gear ends up getting into the core, and that's when Gira, he activates the castle to transform. And that's when Yama runs out of there. He kind of gets everybody to freaking evacuate the place, because if they don't get out of there, they're gonna get crushed, because that whole castle turns into this freaking mech, this gigantic freaking black beetle. So he ends up transforming into, we see that Gira's like kind of panicking from like the transformation sequence of it. And he finally, when he gets in the cockpit's freaking huge. He's in there, and he doesn't really have to do anything. Like, he can stand there and move and stuff, but Castus Kabuto is being able to mimic his movements and things like that. And this is when he transforms into this, and everybody's like, oh, hey, he did it. Yeah, wow, cool. But then, like, no one was like in a shock and awe. Everybody was just kind of like, yeah, he did it, good job, yeah, good shit. But he ends up fighting King-Ohger, and King-Ohger, he stops King-Ohger from doing that, a cataclysmic blast that he did in the last episode. And we see that this thing can regenerate, which he ends up King-Ohger ends up like cutting off, or stabbing his wrist, stabbing his wrist and the gears and stuff. And we see that it actually regenerates in. So that's when Gira punches him, and then Gira ends up calling Hercules axe, and it's like a golden Hercules beetle comes in, and it's like a big golden axe that he has, and he ends up taking this axe, and he ends up using the power of him. Well, the Hercules beetle comes in, little axe comes in, he puts like a barrier thing around like a trap, like a snare type of wrapping thing around King-Ohger, and then he takes it turns to an axe, he takes it and completely one-shots King-Ohger and cuts him in half. Yes, King-Ohger, if you come back after this, bro, this you were G, because man, also we got the souls of the greater guardian spirits back. So I didn't know you could do that, but we have the greater guardian spirits, we have their souls back. We see that Jeremy, he ends up popping up, and he has all of them in his hand, and everybody's happy about it. But yeah, King-Ohger is defeated in one hit, and that's when Gira goes and speaks to his people, and they kind of get mad at him because he says something kind of stupid. He said, you guys are the gears. And everybody's like, who you calling a gear? And he goes down to his people, and he basically tells them that he thanks them for helping him, and everybody loves Gira. They're throwing him up in the air and all kind of stuff, like how when Naruto saved the village from pain and everybody's throwing him up and stuff like that. But yeah, we see that, and after that we get Gira's formal coronation into becoming the king of Shogunam. It's very beautiful. It looks aesthetically, it's like very, very beautiful, his coronation. And we see Duga, who ends up putting the crown on his head officially. So now Gira is officially the king of Shogunam. He is officially being coronated, everything. So next episode got a possibly going to be like a cool down kind of episode, but also we see that we are fighting Death Knock in that episode as well. So man, this episode was pretty good. It was like kind of straightforward as well. A lot of lore was also put into this, you know, how like a lot of lore was put into this of how, you know, this whole like mech was basically created, and the history of how, like, yeah, this thing was created 2,000 years ago. So for the last 2,000 years, this thing has been a robot. So I'm wondering, when was the last time, like last time they used it had to be way back. So what were they fighting for them to have to use this guy? But yeah, I really like this mech though. He's huge, but he's bulky, but he's not like a big amalgamated mess of a bunch of different mechs put together. Like he's his own thing, you know. Like he's not how Supreme King-Ohger is, where he's like all the greater guardian spirits tacked on with God Tarantula on his back. Like he looks, you know, he looks well put together. He's not, I mean, and he is big and slow because he's just freaking huge. So it's like him being slow, you know, doesn't really matter, but at the same time it comes with it because he's so freaking huge. But like he's like, I feel like King-Ohger could, like, he's so big, like I feel like King-Ohger could just sit on this guy's shoulder and like be that small. That's just how big this thing is. But no mention of Raculus. Still no mentions of Raculus, and it's like you see that really Dark Narok wasn't in this episode either. It was just Kamen and the whole just settling everything with King-Ohger, which I'm very glad, because I kind of felt like the fight should have maybe been a little bit longer, but like considering the fact of how big these guys were, one-shotting King-Ohger was definitely the freaking move. He gets cut in half. But yeah, I really did like this episode, you know, kind of solidifying everything, kind of ending kind of like an arc where, you know, Gear trying to become king. Now he is officially the king. So yeah, but you guys, let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think of this episode of Ohsama Sentai King-Ohger. We on episode 23, and next week's episode seems like it's gonna be kind of just as good. So yeah, I'm gonna see you guys next time. Make sure to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and I'm gonna see you guys next time. And remember, stay henshined.